we have today with us Mr. Vivek Bansal ji. So shortly, I would like to introduce Sir. Sir is an educator of emotional balance, mindfulness, and meditation. And he believes in transforming all the layers of our personality, physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. He has been a catalyst for change in people's life by providing personalized coaching and courses for complete growth, intra and interpersonal, by meditation, mindfulness, and essential life skills. I believe that Sir will give you a YouTube channel link of his own during the talk. And he has delivered so many talks in IIT Roorkee, BITS Mesra, IIT Rourkela, Silchar, Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Engineering, Pune, IIT Goa, NIT Jaipur, JEC Gujarat. So the list goes on, continues. So I think that without wasting any time, Sir is already connected. So I heartily welcome you, Sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Over to you, Sir.
Thank you very much, Priyanka ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. And it's my pleasure to share something related to mindfulness and meditation today. So, we are going to talk something very practical, relevant stuff, which I'm sure you will appreciate. And many of those things you may be already knowing, but it's more about like putting them all together and seeing them from different angles and point of views. And when we do that, that actually helps us to change our life from different angles. So we begin with this small story. Or can you see my slides, ma'am? White background and something written like what is limiting
Yes,
us?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So here two examples are written, and first one is eagle's egg among chickens, and second is elephant tied to a pole. These both examples actually gives the idea of conditioning. So once what happened, once eagle's egg fell among chickens and it started growing after hatching by chickens, it started growing among chickens. And when a small eagle is growing among chickens, and because of the surroundings and cultures and everything, it started behaving like chickens. So this is called conditioning. Conditioning means to become conditioned to one particular kind of environment and particular kind of situation and surroundings. And now, although she is an eagle, but she is not flying like eagle. Until the point one person comes and see this odd situation, and he takes this eagle to the cliff of the mountain, and he started showing the eagle. So many other eagles are flying and sky and everything. And now he threw the eagle from the cliff of the mountain into the sky. Now, eagle had no other option than to stretch to her limits, and put all her strength. And then she found out her real potential. Second example, which is given here, is elephant tied to a pole. Is when an elephant is very small, baby elephant just born, is tied to a pole with a rope, and rope has particular strength and size and length, and that is quite enough to just hold on to the elephant. But the mystery is, or you can say the wonder is, or you can say the conditioning is, that as elephants start growing, size of the rope and the strength of the rope remains same. An elephant can break it now, but it doesn't break, because the conditioning is that I cannot break this rope. So the point which I'm trying to say, when we talk about growth, when we talk about finding our potential, when we talk about mindfulness, first we need to understand which are the things which are blocking us, limiting us, holding us back. And most of those things are our own uh, thought patterns, belief systems, which we have developed over the years. So mindfulness is a very simple thing. Mindfulness means being mindful. Being mindful means how I'm behaving, how am I reacting, how am I entertaining different kind of emotions which are coming to me. You know, what is the reality of the world, what is the reality of life, and how I deal with it. All of this stuff. So some behaviors, belief systems, emotions, or thought patterns which hold you back and prevent you from doing what you want to do. So when we want to talk about mindfulness, first we need to find out, we have to learn to observe our behaviors and belief systems and thought patterns and emotions. We need to learn to do that. And once we find out that, then we need to understand from where they have come. And what happens when we have these limitations with us. Because when we have so many limitations at the thought process and at the belief system and at emotional level, we don't feel very confident, we don't feel very encouraged in life. And there is one of the first thing which happens is blaming others when things go wrong. Because a stage comes in our life when we feel fearful to take responsibility of our decisions, to take responsibility of our whatever is happening with us or whatever happened to us, and we start looking for somebody to blame. We start looking some situation to blame, or if nobody is there, we start blaming universe or God. And that is the stage where we stop growing in life, because by blaming nobody grows in life. Only by taking responsibility, even if we have done something wrong, we take the challenge to grow. Because once we realize there is something wrong has been done by me, even if there is a mistake of another person in that, but we always trying to find what is my role into it. And then when we are limiting ourselves, we also choose to walk away when things don't go smoothly. When things don't go smoothly. What does it mean? Things don't go smoothly. It means like our resilience and tolerance and ability to face difficulties has gone very low. And we are looking for some easy way out in life. We are looking for some shortcuts in life. But life is not like that. Life is about persistence. Life is about pushing yourself against odds. And then, when we lack confidence, we also fall into the trap of procrastination. What is procrastination? Procrastination means just pushing things. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it after 1 week, I will do it after 1 year, and not ready to take the challenge and just deal with it and come up with something. There is a fear that I may do something wrong, I may be wrong. There is a fear always in this particular kind of situation. And then picking fights with friends or partners because we really don't understand ourselves nicely, we don't understand others nicely, we are not able to connect with our own emotions and feelings, and how can we connect with other people's emotions and feelings? And people lose so much of self-confidence that person has difficulty even stating one's own needs. Person find very difficult to say that this is what I need, because person doesn't know what exactly he needs or she needs. And then ultimately person start putting oneself down, अपनी ही नजरों में गिर जाना. There is no self love, there is no self esteem. Person feels like I'm good for nothing, I'm not good enough, nobody loves me, I'm not lovable. So these are the things we need to observe, how many times these kind of thoughts and emotions are coming and bothering us. And most of these patterns, my dear friends, we learned in our childhood, based on our surroundings, based on our culture, based on our family. So many patterns we learn. Like if a child is born in a family where authoritative figure was very powerful, the leader of the family is very authoritative. Like anything you want to do in life, you have to be very minutely controlled for that. And there is so much power and authority is exercised on us. There is hardly any freedom is given to us. So in that situation, many things can happen. One of the pattern person may develop is person may develop aversion towards an authoritative figure. Or person may develop another kind of thought pattern is person wants to have that power and authority and is convinced that unless I have that power or authority, I will not be happy in this world. There's so many other patterns, you need to observe which kind of patterns we have developed. Like somebody is born in a family or surroundings where money is given all the importance. That person will give a lot of importance to money. Money is important. I'm not denying that. Money is very important. It's energy, it's a medium of exchange. But that's not everything. In somebody is born in a family or culture where respect is given to the elders, where respect is not given to the elders, all these things matters in our way of behaving and thinking and being emotional. Also, there is another thing which happens is past relationship dynamics. We had into so many relationships like between father and child, mother and child, brother and sister, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, brother, sister, so many, uncle, aunt, and niece, nephews. All these relationships, it has affected the way we think, the way we behave, and we need to learn to become mindful that how we have indirectly or subtly lost our identity into those relationships. Because sometimes on the name of what you say, pleasing another person, on the name of making another person happy, it may be possible that you don't exercise your own needs, you don't express your needs, and you just always behave in a way that whatever will make another person happy, I will do it. And in this process, person may lose one's own identity, person may start feeling not lovable. So many things may be happening. Another thing is fear of failure. Sometimes in life when we fail, especially when we are children or when we are like adult, teenage basically, and that time if enough support is not given by our parents or family or culture or society or friends, then there's a fear of failure develops in our life. And that fear of failure doesn't allow us to uh, go ahead, doesn't allow us to take strong decisions, doesn't allow us to take some risk in life. And without taking some calculative risk, we cannot grow, we cannot jump. There is always a fear whether it will be right or wrong, whether I can do it or not. There is a self-doubt start coming. So all these things leads to lack of emotional strength. Person doesn't have enough emotional strength where person can take strong decisions, person can face the world, person can face the difficulties and challenges, and that's why there is a great need in society to understand about emotional intelligence. Many times people talk about IQ, especially all of you are from academic worlds, academic world, to whom I am addressing right now. And in academic world, most of the time people talk about intelligence, intelligent quotient, IQ. That is the ability to, express your intelligence. But in real life, it's not just IQ, it's more of EQ, emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. If you want to be successful in life, emotional intelligence is more important because person may be very qualified, very talented, but if person is emotionally disturbed, can't do anything. Just imagine a girl who has practiced Bharatnatyam for 12 years, Indian classical dance, and after that there is a performance on the stage after 12 years, the first public performance after the permission of his master or guru, and now she is not feeling confident, she does not have love for herself, she feels, panic, she feels she's having self-doubt. So all of this practice of 12 years has gone waste. Or just before the performance, somebody has insulted her thoroughly and she's feeling very bad about it. So emotional intelligence is the way you perceive, understand, express, and manage emotions. And once we learn to manage emotions, once we learn to understand others' emotions, once we understand how to express our emotions, life can be totally different, my dear friends. Life will be totally different. Because it's important, the more you understand these aspects of yourself, the better your mental health and social behavior will be. With the help of emotional intelligence, you can keep yourself motivated all the time. You can be more empathetic toward others. You can have wonderful social skills, because social skills is all about how you relate with people emotions and how you express your emotions. When we have emotional strength, we can have better self-regulation. Better self-regulation means we can discipline ourselves, we can have more self-awareness. How am I feeling right now? What are my needs? People who lack emotional intelligence are more likely to just react without giving themselves the time to weigh up the pros and cons of a situation. This is what happens. Without giving themselves the time. So the time is not like you need a lot of time to decide how to behave. It's just all about the practice. But when we have strong emotional intelligence, we just don't react the normal people react to a situation. If somebody passes away who is very dear to us, we don't just cry like a baby for days together or months together. We feel the loss, we have some sadness, but we don't go to the extreme or becoming depressed. If somebody try to misbehave with us, we feel disappointed, but we don't go to the zone of being going crazy with madness. So we need to learn to observe, first of all, what sets you off. What kind of situation, what kind of behavior, what kind of words sets you off, triggers you off. Because when we talk about mindfulness, it's all about being mindful. I'm repeating it again, and I'll keep on repeating this. To be mindful how you react in different situations. Be mindful what sets you off. And also try to understand what is the connection among body, mind, intelligence, and soul. Because once we understand the connection, that how my senses are connected to my intelligence and mind, and how my mind is ordering my senses to behave in a different way, then we can actually work at every level to bring a change or transformation. So here you see, it's a beautiful picture here. There are 5 horses in this picture, and there is a chariot. And these 5 horses are connected to this chariot. We have a driver and we have a passenger. And these 5 horses are compared to 5 senses in the body. I know you may be knowing about this before also. If not, please pay attention, because I'm going to share some deep insights about it. Eyes, nose, tongue, skin, and ears. So these 5 are like data entry points in our body. Whatever information we are getting in our life, that is coming from these 5 senses. Whatever information. Through our eyes, we are clicking pictures, sights, different kind of sights. Through our nose, different kind of smells. Through our tongue, different kind of taste. Ear, different kind of sound and vibrations and energies, frequencies. And through our skin, different kind of touch. And all these experiences are stored in our mind, and based on those experiences we behave. So if we want to bring some change in our personality, we want to bring transformation, we need to work on both the platform. On one side, we have to be very careful and very alert what kind of data we are feeding to our mind through our senses. What kind of pictures we are watching, what kind of scenes we are watching, what kind of talks we are hearing, what kind of food we are tasting. Because we get conditioned to whatever we feed to our senses, because all those experiences get stored in the mind And then, based on those experiences, our senses start demanding things. It's a very simple concept. Simple example, like you go to a particular restaurant and you eat a dish there and which you really liked it, which you really liked. And after eating that dish, you have that very wonderful experience about that dish. Now, next time when you will be going nearby that restaurant or will go to next time to that restaurant, you will naturally will be inclined to taste that particular dish. Or if the dish was not good, you will not like to go from there or go to that place. So basically, our experiences become the cause of our attachments and aversion. So we need to be very careful what kind of things we are feeding to our mind. And then we also need to be careful how strong our intelligence is. Intelligence means ability to perceive, ability to express our emotions, ability to discriminate, ability to just find out what is not good for me and what is good for me from long-term point of view. It's like the driver in the chariot. If horses are very powerful and driver is very weak, then horses will go in all five directions. So for that, we need to make our intelligence very strong. Otherwise, chariot will go out of the balance and passenger will suffer. So that's the whole idea. Idea is that be mindful that how your senses are going towards different direction, how your mind is behaving, and how your intelligence is able to function. See here, this is a flow chart of losing control of life. It's a very interesting chart. Everything starts at the thinking stage. We see any object, we hear any object, like in ads, or we touch anything, or we smell something, and we start contemplating on it. And by contemplating on it, we keep thinking about it, we keep meditating on it, we develop attachment for it. And this attachment is called feeling stage. And this attachment leads to obsession, which is called lust, if we allow it to think and feel for a longer period of time. And when that obsession is not fulfilled, when that lust is not fulfilled, it leads to anger and frustration. And then it leads to delusion, and delusion leads to bewilderment of memory. And then it leads to loss of intelligence. And then one falls down into gross material existence. One falls down to this gross material existence. So everything starts at thought level, my dear friends. So we need to be very careful what kind of thoughts we are carrying. We need to be very careful what kind of data we are allowing to go inside from our senses and into our brain or mind. So that's why it is said, if you want to bring some major change in your life, then you have to change the way we think about others, the way we think about ourselves, the way we feel. And for that, you also need to understand what is the nature of mind. Because we know the senses are very much interconnected with the mind. And if mind is not tamed, if mind is not controlled, if mind is going out of the control completely, then you can just imagine what will happen to us. And that's what happens to most of us. Because most of us don't even know that what is the nature of our mind. And once we know the nature of our mind, and here I'm calling about nature of mind means nature of uncontrolled mind. Nature of mind which has not been trained to behave in a particular way from long-term point of view. The person whose intelligence is very weak, that person's mind, it just makes him crazy. Monkey, it's called monkey mind. What is monkey mind? Monkey is always jumping from one branch to another branch, from one tree to another tree, from one place to another place. It's called monkey mind. Mind is also like a child. Children are very obstinate, jiddi. One's mind decides something, one thought comes to the mind, one desire comes to the mind. Mind wants to have it at any cost. Mind is very adamant to have it. It's called obstinacy. And another nature of the mind is flickering, accepting and rejecting, sankalpa and vikalpa. You like something today, you go to the mall, and after spending few hours, you buy a dress. And after coming back, you start doubting your own decision because mind is saying, I don't like it now. Accepting and rejecting. You like something and you don't like something. It's very flickering. So that's why if somebody on the mental stage and without strong intelligence, that person always remain confused and bewildered and self-doubting. It's very strong. It's very powerful. Just imagine if you have somebody who is very strong, very powerful with you, and that person is out of control, can be the cause of a destruction. But if that person is completely obedient to you and very powerful, then the person can be the cause of your growth. Ability to absorb. Another thing with mind has is mind has very strong ability to absorb, like a sponge. If you put a sponge into red color water, it absorbs red color. If you put a sponge with the blue color water, it absorbs blue color. Similarly, whatever vibrations we put our mind, it start absorbing that. It start absorbing that. So we need to be very careful what kind of vibrations, what kind of energy, what kind of words we are hearing, we are experiencing, we are touching, we are tasting. Otherwise, it will absorb that particular energy. And many people, they allow themselves to expose them to negative vibrations, and it start affecting their whole life. Another thing about mind is like a bird with two wings. And what are these two wings? These two wings takes the person either in the past or in the future. If you start observing yourself, you will start catching yourself that most of our time in our life, if our mind is not in our control, our mind is either in the past or in future. It is worrying what is going to happen after a few days, after a few hours, after a few weeks, after a few years, or it is picking up something from the past and some particular incident which has happened like 5 years back, and start conversing with itself, reconnecting the past events and rearranging them into a better drama, making you miserable. 3 years back, somebody had told you something and you just thought about it and you start feeling sad about it. 5 years back, you lost some money into something and you're just feeling so sad about it. Last week, one of your friends behave in a particular way and you keep thinking about it and keep feeling miserable about it. So that's what mind does, my dear friends. It takes you either into the past or into the future. So being mindful means that first thing first you need to do is that you need to learn to bring your mind into the present. And what is the meaning of learning the mind into the present? That requires practice. There is a mindful breathing exercise which we need to do and which I'm going to do now with all of you. Just 5 minutes exercise. Wherever you are, no problem. If you're in the office, if you're in the home, even if in the car, I don't know where you are, just you need to sit straight with your back straight. And we will learn, we will practice that how easy it is that if your mind is jumping into the past or in the future, we can bring it into the present. And that requires just practice and awareness. Little practice and little awareness can help us to live into the present. And we start with the practice of breath. Because breath is one of the most present thing happening in our life. The moment you bring your awareness on your breath, you start relishing presence. So wherever you are, let's practice now. It will not take more than 5 to 7 minutes. And this kind of mindfulness breathing meditation or mindfulness breathing exercise, you can do any time of the day, Or you can decide, it's better to decide like I will do it every time when I feel anxious, I feel worried, or I'll practice it just before lunch and dinner or before going to bed. So simple it is. Wherever you are now, please sit with your back straight and bring your hands on your knees. Just keep your hands on your knees. Relax your shoulders and neck. If you want, you can rotate it a little bit, roll it clockwise, anti-clockwise. Just relax and keep your back straight. And keep your hands on your knees. When you keep your hands on the knees, it will help you to keep your back straight. And now close your eyes. And after closing your eyes, now please observe your breath, the movement of your breath, how your breath is going in and coming out. There is nothing much you have to do. You have to just bring your awareness on your breath. If your mind is going either into the past or future, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it, where your mind is, and I need to control the mind and all those things. You don't have to worry anything. Your only focus is on breath, the movement of your breath. Now take a deep breath. Deep breath means your lungs are completely filled with air and your diaphragm pushes your belly out. And then you exhale slowly and completely. And then you exhale slowly and completely. And again inhale deeply and exhale slowly and completely. Deep inhalation and complete exhalation. You're inhaling deeply and you're exhaling very slowly and completely. Now bring your awareness to your breath and make it just rhythmic. If you are breathing in 4 seconds, try to breathe out also in 4 seconds. Very simple, natural, rhythmic breath. Very simple, natural, rhythmic breath. Complete awareness of your breath, how your breath is going in and coming out. Now take your awareness to your forehead. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyebrows. Relax your eyes. Relax your cheeks. Relax your lips. Relax your jaw. Relax your tongue. Relax your neck muscles and shoulders. And bring all of your awareness on your breath. And in every exhalation, exhale any kind of anxiety, worry, suppressed emotions you're carrying. Just exhale it out. After every exhalation, feel as if all the burden you have been carrying for lifetimes, you're just throwing it out of your existence. Just observe your breath, how your breath is going in and out. Make your breath more deeper and subtler. Bring your awareness to the inner walls of your nostrils. Bring your awareness to the inner walls of your nostrils and make your breath deeper and subtler. Your complete awareness is on the movement of your breath as you're inhaling and as you're exhaling. Feel relaxation during exhalation and feel your every cell of your body is getting energized during inhalation. As you're inhaling, every cell of your body is getting energized, and as you're exhaling, all the suppressed emotions and anxieties are coming out, and you're feeling relaxed, relaxed, relaxed. Slowly roll your shoulders clockwise and anti-clockwise. Move your neck front to back, back to front, left to right, right to left. Bring your palms together, rub them nicely, and cover your eyes with those palms. Feel the warmth. Open your eyes inside the palms and take your palms down. So this is just 6 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes. We did this, a very simple mindfulness breathing exercise. And I'm sure you must have appreciated something about it. And if it is possible, before I go further, it will be nice to hear, or maybe you can write in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself if you are allowed to do that. I don't know that. Just share something. What did you feel, and was it helpful to bring your mind into the present, or any other overall experience in a subjective way or an objective way? And then we'll go further on the discussion of our mindfulness topic. Okay, I think nobody wants to share. I think it's very sad. So now let's continue our topic on mindfulness. So we were talking about that how our mind jumps into the past or into the future. Similarly, our mind has a nature to jump on the thoughts which are very destructive. And if we are not,
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
yes,
Your responses, people had written in the chat box. They are feeling quite good.
okay, let me see the chat box here. 1 minute. I thought they will say all
One or two
participants.
persons
Very
had
good
written, yeah.
concept. Thank you. No problem. Thank you. That's great. So that's nice, encouraging. So I was saying that mind, as it has its nature to jump into the past or future, mind also has a nature, if it is not trained properly, to kind of thoughts which are very destructive. And we call it sick mind. Sick mind is a mind which is not happy. There are people who are always happy, or they want to be happy. They choose happiness. Happiness is a choice. Emotions are choice. Now situations sometimes are not choice. Like if I lose something, sometimes it's not in my hand, or I get some particular disease, or somebody behave with me in a very bad way. It's not in my control. Or somebody succeeding in life, that is not in my control. What is in my control is my own success, or to some extent, not to large extent, because so many other factors are there in the success. But a sick mind start getting into the kind of thoughts which doesn't help you to grow, and that unnatural growth of those kind of thoughts, it's called cancer. What is cancer in the body? Cancer of in the body is unnatural growth of particular cells. Similarly, there is an unnatural growth of particular kind of thought process which is very destructive, and I call them three cancers of mind. And these three cancers of mind are comparing, criticizing, and complaining. These three C's. Now, when people start comparing themselves with others, you know what happens? They start feeling low about themselves. They start feeling jealous of them. And when people complain, like complaining, I mean, when you bought something and that person has not given you what was promised, you have a right to complain. You go to a restaurant and you order a particular dish, and that dish has, like, really tasteless, or really has, you order for something and something else comes up, totally different shape and form, then you have the right to complain, definitely. But here I'm talking about people who are complaining for each and every small thing. Weather is not good, people are not good, friend is not good, wife is not good, husband is not good, salary is not good, job is not good. Just the moment they open their mouth, they're only complaining. They don't have any kind of gratitude or positivity in their life. We need to observe, my dear friends. We may not be that extreme, but somewhere down the line, we may be complaining about things. Or we may be criticizing about oneself, criticizing about others. Mind is a very neutral guy. I think I forgot to mention this. Mind is a good guy. If we practice to criticize others, then mind will also criticize yourself. Criticism will also start. So these three cancers of the mind doesn't allow the person to grow in life. And if you really want to be a practitioner of mindfulness, then one of the first thing, my dear friends, you need to do is become very mindful to observe these kind of three C's in your life. And if you catch yourself at any point of your life that you're comparing yourself with others, then first learn to appreciate what you already have. Because you may have something which other people are dying to have. Rose plant has such fragrant rose flowers, but it has thorns on its body. Now, if the rose plant is crying that I have thorns in my body and not able to appreciate that I have this fragrant flower on me, then it's foolishness. Other plants are dying to have that kind of fragrant flower with themselves. We all are different, my dear friends. And we need to remind it again and again, because that's how mind cheats us. If a fish in water is crying or being sad, feeling sad that I cannot climb the tree, it's really being stupid on the part of fish. So before getting into the zone of comparison, we need to appreciate what we have. We have to understand what we are. We all are different. And always we can be in the mood of a student. If we meet somebody and if we see somebody on the Instagram or in real life who is very qualified, who is much more qualified, much more successful than us, We can take inspiration instead of feeling guilty, or instead of feeling sad and so many negative emotions, which we're going to discuss after some time. We can be in the mood of a student and we can take inspiration and we can grow. There is an opportunity to take inspiration, there is an opportunity to learn, and I am on my way. Why to feel sad? And then again, we can focus on small successes. If I'm a YouTuber and I don't have billions of followers, I can take pleasure to at least upload 10 nice videos and at least 30-40 people watch them and at least one or two have appreciated it. I'm on my way. If I keep on doing it, maybe after 5 years, I may have 1,000 videos of very good quality and people may start coming to my content. Why to feel sad? So that's the clue. This is the one of the most powerful thing which I've written here now. If you must compare, compare to yourself. If you must compare, compare to yourself. What you were yesterday and what you are today. What you were 1 week before and what you are today. What you were 5 years back and what you are today. So we need to competing with ourselves, and that really will help you to grow in life. And the most difficult thing which people find difficult to practice is accepting what we cannot change, because some things cannot be changed after trying your best. That requires courage. That requires honesty, that certain things are going to be like this. And be happy about it. Somebody's height, after one particular age, you cannot change the height of the person. Parents and the surroundings, sometimes it's very difficult to change the surroundings. Parents, you can't change only. So we have to learn to accept what you cannot change after trying everything. And then coming out of the complaining mindset. Complaining mindset, it's very, very, pulling, it pulls you down. And that can be done by learning to look at everything with more amazement. When you walk with children in the forest, when you walk with the small baby children on the street, in the market, they look everything with this amazement. This is something special in it. But because we have learned to just take things for granted, then we have forgotten to take enjoyment or pleasure even in small, simple things. So please remind yourself that even the simple things are amazing, and the things I complain about every day when you're eating a particular dish, it's amazing. If somebody is talking to you with sweetness, if somebody is smiling at you, it's amazing. Yeah. Take a step back and look at your life with gratitude every now and then. That how many wonderful things have happened to me, how many wonderful things are happening to me right now. How many times in a day we can be grateful to so many things, so many things. And then we can come out of the complaining mode immediately. And then coming out of criticizing mindset. And that is the antidote for criticizing mindset is being in honeybee mindset. What is honeybee mindset? Honeybee mindset is honey is always looking for honey. Even there is a pile of garbage, honeybee will be looking for a flower in the corner and just waiting to suck some honey out of it. And a fly, even there is a garden full of flowers, will be looking for some dirt to take some pus out of it. So when we look for something good in others, we find good. When we learn to appreciate, we can appreciate. And when we can learn to appreciate good in others, we can learn to appreciate in ourselves also. And if by chance in some situation you are stuck in a discussion where people just talking negative and all crap, you try your best to shift the discussion. If you can't, just excuse yourself. Because hearing criticism is like drinking poison, and appreciating is like drinking nectar. So, my dear friends, watch your thoughts, observe your thoughts, and if thoughts are very nice, wonderful, then entertain them. And if your thoughts are waste, garbage, then their place is in the garbage. Their place is in the dustbin. Their place is, you need to learn to press the all control delete button. You have to learn to shift your thoughts, and that requires practice. And in that practice, first of all, we need to observe, and we need to appreciate. We need to learn to manage our self-talk. Self-talk, we talk to ourselves, not like sometimes people walk on a street and they're talking to themselves like a madman. You might think, I don't do that. I'm not talking to myself. Some people literally talk, but I'm not talking about the literal talking. I'm talking about there is a constant self-talk going on in our mind, in our background. There is something going on. Some people constantly talking to themselves. Oh, I'm not good. I'm not fine. I'm not good enough. I don't love myself. Nobody loves me. I'm a failure. This is going to be a wonderful day. Or this is going to be a crappy day. How you begin your day depends on you. Because wonderful or crappy day is our response to situation. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not that every time you will be meeting people who are glorifying you, appreciating you. There will be time in the day when people may not be liking you. They may be telling something wrong about you. But you have to learn to manage those kind of situations, and your response to it. And especially never ever talk to yourself and bring your mind into the useless kind of thoughts. Here I'm showing you two circles: circle of concern and circle of influence. What is circle of concern? Things that bother you but you can't do anything about. And circle of influence, things you can do something about. This is another very important thing which you need to watch when you're watching your thoughts, when you're watching how you're talking, how you're behaving, how you're responding, how you're discussing different subject matter with your friends and relatives. Many times, people are very much bothered about things which they don't have much control over. Like if somebody is sitting in Rishikesh, like I'm living in Rishikesh, and I'm so concerned about what is happening in Triple IIT Kota, or what is happening in IIT Goa or something. Now, this is a concern, but this concern has not much value because I don't have any control over it. But if I am the head of the department of one particular department in the Triple IIT Kota or whatever, Hyderabad or whatever, then I can do something about it. So that's called circle of influence, things you can do something about. So we need to first understand what is my circle of influence. Circle of influence is an area where you can do something about your own family, your own class where you're teaching, or your own friend circle, whatever. Different people have different area of circle of influence, circumference or the area, surface area is different, or the circle of influence of different people. But the idea is that when you focus completely in your circle of influence and you don't waste your time and energy in your circle of concern, that your circle of influence will start growing. Your circle of influence will start expanding. And when it will expand, like for example, you are the head of the department of one particular department in your college, and you're doing your best in your department, then it will be noted by the principal or other HODs of your college or maybe other colleges, and they may start approaching you, may start taking some advice from you. Maybe you are called for some particular talks, or you may write a paper, or you may be published on some magazines by seeing your work. And now your circle of concern can be taken care to a large extent. Understand what I'm saying? It's a very important concept, my dear friends, that how we need to observe our thoughts, and if they are very much related to circle of influence, sorry, a concern, then you have to try to shift to circle of influence. In every situation, every day, we should ask ourselves, what can I do? Is it there something I can do in this situation? And if not, then be just aware about it. Like, say, if something is happening in Afghanistan or Taiwan or say US, I can be aware about this particular situation, but I can't do much about it. But let me expand my circle of influence. And then another concept is about instinct versus choice, which is also being very mindful whether I am reacting or I am responding. Am I reacting or am I responding? Because between any action and response, I have freedom to choose, I have free will. Many times, when people don't have the high level of awareness, they act by instinct, they don't act by choice. What is instinct? Acting by instinct. If you observe certain animals, then most of the time they act by instinct. They don't exercise their free will so much. Like, if you keep some food on the street in the street, and a dog comes or some other animal comes, he will just eat it without thinking the hygiene of the food, without thinking somebody has mixed some poison into it. I don't know. The resistance, it's very less. The ability to control oneself is very less when it comes to senses. But when a human being will see that food, in spite of being hungry, sometime person may resist. This is called free will, freedom to choose your response. Like, once Gautam Buddha was giving a talk, and one person came and started shouting and yelling and giving bad words. After doing it for a few minutes, he got tired because Gautam Buddha didn't react. He was just peacefully sitting and allowing her to say whatever he wanted to say. And he said, I'm trying to give you so many bad words and you're not reacting at all. What kind of person you are? He said, you are giving me something which I don't care. And if I don't take what you're giving me, it belongs to you. I don't know whether he said that, but the idea is that freedom to choose, he chose his response not to get affected by that particular man's words, because he knows, who am I? He's very highly aware of himself. Just if somebody calls you stupid doesn't make you stupid. That's what we need to understand. Somebody calls you something, and people go crazy. How dare you call me like that? No, I'm not talking about your self-respect getting hurt and all that. That's a totally different issue, behaving in a public place. But I'm talking about you can sue that person in the court also, just to teach that person lesson or whatever. But I'm saying you should not get affected so much that you start feeling disturbed and start losing your own emotional balance. It's called freedom to choose. And this freedom to choose, this free will, that's where emotional intelligence, that's where spiritual intelligence come into picture. Spiritual growth happens only when we make this free will. We all have that free will. It's like we all have ability to lift weights, but because we have not practiced, and when we go to the gym and we start lifting the weights, we can't lift more than the 2 kg or 5 kg dumbbell. But when you keep doing it, you start building your muscles. Similarly, you start building your mental muscles, start practicing it. So on the road of life, there are passengers and there are drivers. Drivers want it. What is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is that we have to learn to take the responsibility of our decisions. We have to take the responsibility of our behavior. And when we start taking responsibility that I'm responsible, whatever is happening in my life, I can't blame my surroundings. I can't blame because of my partner this is happening. I can't blame because of my parents this is happening. Because of my employer this is happening. If I want, I can bring change. And that change can take time, but if just not the time. It's about how you decide to come out of your comfort zone and go into the courage zone. Otherwise, people have some standard excuses. And what are the standard excuses? I've always done it that way. I have always done it this way. That's not my job. I don't think it will make any difference. I'm too busy. These are the standard excuses. So we need to learn to shift from comfort zone to courage zone. What is courage zone? Things I'm afraid of, things I have never tried, unexplored territories, things that are difficult, hard moments, opportunity, bravery. It's all like choosing these kind of situations, adventure. Because you can't discover new oceans unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. There has to be a courage. There has to be ability to jump, to persist, to push yourself. It's a beautiful clipping which I'm going to show you. The side. And this is the thing, this man is running marathon or something, and everybody has reached to the end point long back, but he doesn't give up. He keep pushing himself because he choose to not give up. Switch. This one we try last try. It doesn't work, it's fine. Yeah, there is something wrong with this. Okay, we'll just leave it. So here I was trying to tell you that there is a reactive behavior and there is a responsible behavior. Let's go to this slide. And what is the difference between reactive behavior and responsive behavior is very simple. In responsible behavior, we take responsibility to choose. We take responsibility to choose our behavior. And in reactive behavior, we just behave. We just behave in a way where whatever situation forces us to behave. But in responsible behavior, we don't care about the situation. We are very much concerned about our response. And that's the meaning of mindful behavior. The stimulus is there, but my response will depend on my pre-programmed way of thinking. Now we all have programmed our mind. That's called thought process, belief system, and patterns. And mindfulness is about reprogramming the way we think, the way we behave, the way we respond. Like I gave you the story about Gautam Buddha. So control your destiny or someone else will control your destiny, my dear friends. Because if we don't take charge of our life, situations and surrounding, and other people will start taking decision for us. So accept responsibility, develop this attitude that I'm responsible for who I am, for what I have, for what I do. And once we start taking this responsibility for everything in life, there will be miracle happening. And what will the miracle? Not that you will become some big business tycoon in a 6 months or 3 months, maybe possible, but the miracle will happen is you will feel a different kind of happiness in life, because when we take responsibility of our situations and our decisions and we stop blaming the situations and people around us, a different kind of satisfaction which arises. And any behavior to change, there are 4 steps. First is unconscious incompetence. Second is conscious incompetence. Third is conscious competence. And fourth is unconscious competence. Simple example I'll give you, like say car driving. I don't have a car, I don't have any desire to drive the car. I'm at the first stage, which is called unconsciously incompetent. I'm incompetent, I am not even conscious about it. But the day I decide that I need to learn to drive the car and I drive, I join the driving school and I start driving the car, coach is sitting next to me. I'm conscious, but I'm incompetence. But I'm becoming conscious. Where is gear, how to change the gear, how to use the steering, how to use the accelerator, a clutch, a brake, how to take a turn. And then when I practice it for 21 days or say like 42 days, and then I reach to the third stage that is called conscious competence. Conscious competence. Now I can drive on my own. I'm competent, but I'm very conscious. I'm very alert. When you learn driving for first few weeks and first few months, you're very alert. You're just sitting with your back straight and you can't very stiff, your neck is stiff. You can't look and walk and talk to many people. But when you keep driving it for a few months, you reach to the fourth stage, and that is called unconscious competence. Unconscious competence means now it has become your second nature. You can drive and you can even talk to your person sitting next to you. And you're not that tensed and worried. If somebody comes suddenly, you're very comfortable to put the brake or change the gear, reduce your speed. Similarly, in life, if we learn to practice some mindfulness techniques, like I talked about, changing your thought process from past and future to the present, changing your thought process from your three cancerous mind kind of thoughts to a very positive, beautiful thoughts. It will require some practice, but it will be easy gradually to shift the state of your mind to a different situation. Now, before I go further, I do it generally in my presentation because it's a very practical kind of topic. Let me check if somebody has any question till now or anything to say. I'll take a break for 30 seconds. If anybody comes up, it's okay. Otherwise, I will continue with our discussion. Any question or anything you want to say about presentation till now, we can take it. You can write in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself, or you can speak. And then I'll again take some questions in the hand, but it's nice to ask in the middle also because it's a very practical, relevant kind of topic.
Sir, I'm having a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, actually, what is the basic difference between what you told is the response and the reaction? Actually, whatever we say in the response is being shown by a reaction only, na, by the facial expressions. So if suppose we are feeling annoyed or angry, then that gets automatically, expressed from our expression.
Very good
So,
question. In reaction, I meant, ma'am, is that our reaction is very much dependent on other people's behavior. Let's say somebody gives me some kind of words which may agitate me. Now it's my choice whether I get angry or upset or not. Then it means response. You're responding with your choice. But sometimes our behavior become like a robot. You can even predict that if you say this kind of words to this person will, like garam ho jayega, he will become angry or she get angry. Or say I gave you the example of somebody has passed away, very dear one to us. This natural reaction is to cry and feel very sad and maybe a tendency to get into depression. But response will be with intelligence that what is the reality of this world? What is the reality of this world? That anybody who has taken birth has to die. Or there are so many other situations which we can talk about. But response, when I meant to, you have a free will, you have a free choice, that your response is based on more of intelligence and more of a emotional intelligence. You have ability to express your emotions, ability to behave in a different way which normal people may not behave. That is the meaning of maturity. That is the meaning of spiritual growth. that you can control your emotions in different. Control is like suppressing word. Manage your emotions. That's the meaning I meant here. Does it make sense, or what do you think?
Yes, yes. Actually,
You
it
can.
is very.
Pardon? You can still. I can go on. You can just tell what you're feeling.
Yeah, actually, it is very difficult to manage our emotions.
It
What you
is.
told.
It is difficult. It is difficult, but it is possible. By practice, anything is possible. First time when person goes to the gym, I mean, it's very difficult. But that's the first thing in any stage, especially in mindfulness or emotional thing, is to start observing. And it is possible based on clarity of thought, first of all. Second thing is, when people don't practice this, they end up giving the remote control of their life into other people's hand. So sad. They general people say, "Oh, that person make me cry. That person hurt me emotionally." Now, my dear friends, people have ability to hurt us physically. But if I decide that nobody can hurt me, or at least these five people cannot hurt me emotionally, they cannot, even if they tell me anything. Physically, somebody can come and beat me with a stick. But emotionally, if I have decided to cut off some particular person, that no matter what he says, what he talk about me, I don't care. Will we feel hurt? Generally, we feel hurt only by people whom we give importance, and sometimes too much importance. And when they say something to us, we feel, oh, I never expected this thing from this person. So it means we have given the remote control of our life to that person's hand. So we may feel disappointed. Now I'm going to talk about healthy emotions and unhealthy emotions in next few minutes, and then maybe you can discuss more. And I agree totally with you. It's not easy because our mind has been trained to behave and respond in a particular way for decades. For some time, if you believe in many lives, for many lives. But everything is possible by practice. That's the meaning of. Otherwise, what is the use of all these books and all the practices? Yes, ma'am.
No, sir, but this thing is for sure, like for some particular jobs, like we as an academician, we are whole time busy with the college works. When we get free, we come to the family, then family works. So we don't get time for the meditation that helps to control the mind. Neither we listen to spiritual videos or meditation videos or this the type of videos get over from depression and all. So in that case it gets piled up and piled up because of the excess work and overload. So in that, what you suggest for such type of people who are suffering?
You
They
just
do not
answered
get
your
time
question.
actually
You just answered your own question. You have to take out time.
for all these
See, if
things.
people exactly see if people don't take out time for their physical health, then they lose their physical health. If they don't take out time for their mental hygiene or mental health, they lose mental health. Now, you may not be able to take out time for everything, but like if you are using your body and mind 16 hours a day, then at least you need to take out at least half an hour to 1 hour for both. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And that's called intelligence. Like if you just what you say, teaching, and if you're not reading some new stuff, then also your professionally will not be that in tune with what is happening with some new research paper and all that.
Exactly,
so
exactly.
so the same way we need to work, and unfortunately people have forgotten that if I'm using some tool, then I need to take care of those tools, and your body and mind is the most important tool with what you are doing your profession or you're taking care of a family. Hmm. How will you function if like after 40 or 45 body has 10 diseases, and like high blood pressure, sugar, and stress, so many these are like common things which are coming in the society. How will you function if you mentally develop some kind of negativity about yourself and other people, especially your family members? Life में कुछ fun ही नहीं रहेगा. So you may not take out time for like all the techniques and all the asanas. Just a bland, very simple rule you can make, that I will do something half an hour for my body and half an hour for my mind. And half an hour body means you can either do jogging, you can do walking, you can do some asanas, you can do swimming, at least something to function the body.
Mm.
I will make some rule not to eat particular kind of food which really not sync with my body type.
Yes, sir.
I will do some half an hour of for mine. In that, maybe 10 minutes of watching a video, or 10 minutes of meditation, or 10 minutes of something. It's possible. It just requires awareness, and that's why I think we are doing this program of 2 hours is not like a very big training program. This program is just to create awareness. The FDP program, which AICT has included this particular session in all the FDPs, just to keep in mind that people become aware of it. If they don't become aware of it, they will destroy their physical health. In America and everywhere, people are not able to function, and companies are losing a lot of money because when people are emotionally down, they don't perform well. So they are arranging these programs, because if you are not emotionally healthy, how will you perform well? So you have to take out some time, my friends, actually, and there is no shortcut. If something is there, if you begin today, maybe after 1 year or 2 year, things will become very natural. And the kind of meditation I just taught you, 5 minutes wala, you can just do it in your workplace also. You know, if you're sitting for 5 minutes with closed eyes, nobody is going to catch you what you're doing. Now, next topic is thoughts and emotions connection. It's not what happens to you which makes you upset, it's your point of view which makes you upset. So that's why first we have to learn to be authentic. We can't run away. We can't just give excuses that I don't have time. We have time for everything for which we give priority. This is a fact. And we are not also like some prime minister or CEO or some big company. Even if we are, they also take out time. I think the best example, the Prime Minister of India currently, I mean, he says he takes out time for his yoga and meditation. So you may say, no, you can take out time. No, he's a busy man. Anybody who is in a big position, how to speak of Prime Minister, when the responsibility comes, just to manage a department in the college, just to manage this FDP, you may have to work a little extra. So it's just about priorities, you know. So we have to be authentic. That is, and authenticity starts by being vulnerable. Children are vulnerable. They are honest to themselves. They don't, hide their emotions and feelings. You know, if you're feeling nervous, accept it. If you suppress it, it will build up and it will burst like pressure cooker. People have so many difficulties, panic attacks, and fighting, and anger and frustration. Don't deny your feelings. If you can talk about your feelings, it is much better. If you have a friend who can understand you, who has the capacity to appreciate you, accept you, or not judge you, or find a coach, you know, whatever. Authenticity is the key when we talk about transformation. And if you have that power, you can transform yourself. And being authentic means being honest, being gentle, not beating yourself, being kind to yourself, you know, you have to be kind to yourself, giving yourself a chance. You need to learn to give yourself a chance. What kind of chance? Okay, I may do something wrong. I didn't pay attention to this particular aspect of my for so long. I want to give attention, whatever it is. So authenticity, start with authenticity, and then you see how your thoughts are going. If you have happy thoughts, you will feel happy. If you have angry thoughts, you will feel angry. Fearful thoughts, you will feel afraid. And if you can change your thoughts, you can change your feelings. As I showed you in the beginning of the presentation also, the flow chart of losing a control of your life, everything begins at the thought process. Now, even if you don't have time, let's say, like ma'am was saying that throughout the day I didn't get the time, but throughout the day we are acting, we are functioning, we are behaving, we are thinking. So if you can just learn to observe your thoughts, and the moment you catch yourself having a thought which is not a happy thought, which is an angry thought, which is a fearful thought, we can replace it. Like if I'm fearful of what will happen to me when I'm old, what will happen to me when I retire, that's a useless thought, frankly speaking. Because if you keep thinking about it, it will make you more miserable, more sad, more worried, more insecure. So you can talk to your mind. You can say, okay, fine. I don't know whether I'm going to get older like next year. I'm going to get older at the age of 60, or I may retire at the age of 60. So what kind of insecurity I'm feeling? What will happen to me physically, emotionally, or financially? So financially, I'm having my plans. I'm saving, you know, whatever way of you are saving. Then you work on it. Deal with the mind by taking the bull with the horn. And you talk about the emotional insecurity. then you say, I have my friends, I have my investment into my social circle where I can uh, interact with them physically. Oh, I'm taking out time. I'm very careful about my diet. So you need to talk to your mind whenever it takes you to other kind of situation. It can happen whole day. So by monitoring and adjusting your thinking, you can bring a change. And this monitoring and adjusting doesn't require some extra time. It just requires awareness. So when we talk about mindfulness and yoga and meditation, it's all about awareness, increasing the awareness at physical level, at emotional level. And when you do that, you can stubbornly refuse to be miserable about anything. If your mind is going like 5 years back and making me cry that what happened to me, what happened to that, this person did this to me and that person did that to me, and you keep thinking about it, you keep becoming miserable. There's no end to it. So instead of choosing that being miserable, we can just think of something what wonderful has happened to me. So being professor or teacher, I'm sure in last 10, 15, 20 years of your career or 5 years of your career, at least few students may have come to you and told you that, uh, thank you, you really helped me, And even if no student, one of your family member may have told you sometime, or maybe a stranger had told you sometime and expressed her gratitude to you, happiness to you, kindness to you. Why can't we think about it? And we can choose to be happy. But by default, we have trained our mind to be miserable, to take pleasure in being miserable. So we have to shift to our thoughts from these negative emotions to positive emotions. What are these negative emotions? Shame, fear, grief, guilt, sadness, depression, despair, envy, doubt, jealousy, frustration, and there may be many more. So whenever you catch yourself going through these negative emotions, be careful. The alarm should, that alarm should ring in your brain, because these negative emotions start screaming at us. They stick at us. They don't leave us so easily. Anytime you feel jealous of someone, you keep feeling jealousy for that person. How that person has so much and I don't have that much. And you forget that how much you have other things which that person may not have. And how much that person has worked hard to get that particular thing. We don't remember that. Sometimes we feel depressed and the depression just continues. Sadness continues. Guilt. If I have done something wrong, I keep thinking about that thing, I did it wrong. Why can't I forgive myself? Why can't I accept if something has been done? I can't change it. The antidote for guilt is acceptance. If something cannot be changed now, it's too late, then why I have to worry so much about it? So they stick. Negative. Remember, negative emotions, when they come, they stick to us. They don't leave us so easily. Like after this talk, if somebody comes to me or phone me or message me some negative things about the talk, then I have a choice to keep thinking about it. Or maybe I can think that how much value I can give to that particular comment or feedback, because to give a feedback also a person needs some qualification. Or I can just take a message out of it and move on. Or I may have a choose to become sad and disappointed and just lose confidence in myself. So develop the awareness of a negative emotions. Are they healthy or unhealthy? What are the healthy negative emotions? Healthy negative emotions are an appropriate response to negative events. They let you know that something is wrong and they encourage you to make positive changes in your life. And unhealthy negative emotions have no beneficial side effects. And what is the situation for unhealthy negative emotions? Now listen very carefully. Now we are coming to the crux of the whole discussion. Do you feel much worse than the situation really calls for? Now we all will have negative emotions. We all have negative situations. We will all have some kind of situation where we may feel sad because of losing somebody, because of losing a job, losing money, something. But do you feel depressed instead of sad? That is the point you have to see. Do you feel afraid instead of careful, enraged instead of annoyed, hurt instead of disappointed, ashamed instead of regretful? Hmm. If we do something wrong, it's good to be regret, to have some regret. If we don't have any regret, then we will never grow, we will never improve. But feeling ashamed and cursing oneself day and night and feeling that I can't do it anymore, it means you have just dug your own grave. This particular emotion will take you more down and down and down in your life. If one of your friend has promised you to, like, we'll go for dinner in the evening and he doesn't come and gives you some silly excuses, definitely we need to feel disappointed, and we can express the disappointment to that person, but doesn't mean that you have to feel hurt for days together. And carry that hurt. It means we are just